the way that the medical system is, the appointments are very quick, and although and there's nothing wrong with this, but the fact of it is they're run by business people a lot of times. And so from a business person perspective, if they don't work in healthcare, they are thinking about numbers and efficiency and profit. And so it can be, depending on where you work, the visits can be pretty jammed together. And having diabetes, if I had an 8 o'clock, 8:20, 8:49, 9:20, 9:40, 10, and then it was I would be running to the bathroom or having a low blood sugar and slurping down juice really quick. And so I think that my own stress levels were definitely going up. Even my own A1C went up to 7.6, which is still, it definitely went up through me not changing anything necessarily with my diet or my strategies. It was just truly the stress of it, I think.
Welcome to the Type 1 and Midlife podcast. My name is Melissa Slemp, a certified nutritional health coach and the founder and CEO of Abundant Health with Melissa, where I help women with type 1 diabetes to feel more empowered and live their best life despite their diagnosis. Each week, I will bring conversations and strategies from guest experts and my experience living with type 1 for over 40 years now. So if you're a woman ready to redefine how diabetes can look and feel for you, then the Type 1 and Midlife podcast is the show for you. Well, hello and welcome. I'm excited to welcome Paige Proctor today into this wonderful conversation I had with her. She has her own unique journey with type 1 diabetes, and her diagnosed at 8 years old. So she's had at least about 20 years of experience with insulin therapy, and she's offering us some really good tips and insights from her own experiences. And her mission is really driven by her love for fitness. Paige studied human nutrition, foods, and exercise in college, and then went on to study to be a physician's assistant in endocrinology. And obviously working firsthand, not only managing her own diabetes, but being able to alongside the patients that she was able to serve. And now she's focusing on empowering others through online creation and in her fitness and health coaching. And she's working part-time as a PA in Obesity Medicine. So in our conversation today, Paige discusses her holistic approach to managing type 1, highlighting the importance of lifestyle factors and mental health. And you can tune in for some practical tips drawn from Paige's experience, both as a woman living with diabetes, but also a practitioner in the field. You can connect with Paige on Instagram and her online community in the Honey Health Diabetes app, where I am also located. That is where we kind of met up and became friends. So this is a really, really good connection. And her community group on that app is called the T1D Paige, and that's Paige, Paige spelled. And you can find all the links to connect with her right here in the show notes. And I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did recording it. And please share it as well. Nothing you hear on this Type 1 and Midlife podcast should be a substitute for professional medical advice. Please always consult your doctor before changing your diet, insulin dosages, or healthcare plan. Well, hello. We are back in here this week, and today I welcome Paige Proctor. Hey, Paige.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. And I'm going to go ahead and talk about the Honey Health Diabetes app, which is where I really discovered you. We are following each other on Instagram right now and, some of the social, but we love what we're doing over here on this app. And we'll definitely talk more about that as the conversation goes. But tell us a little bit about yourself and your diagnosis story and where you are now with your day-to-day.
Yeah, so my name is Paige Proctor, and I am 29. I live in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 8 years old. And so At the time, I had the classic symptoms. I was, losing a bunch of weight and just eating constantly, drinking water constantly. And my parents thought I was just maybe going through a growth spurt or something. And then, um, just like going to the bathroom just more frequently and kind of in the middle of the night, I would walk past my parents' room to go to their bathroom. And I was always like, hey, Dad, like, and then he started to be like, what's going on? And so
Mm,
they had me go get checked out, and luckily I wasn't in DKA or anything at the time of diagnosis. I think I was like in the 500s or so, so still really high blood sugar, but I yeah, I was diagnosed, and it was a big change, just a big
mhm,
whirlwind that I it's looking back at it now, I remember a few distinct memories of like having to do my insulin when we got McDonald's in class one time, but there's a lot of it's kind of a blur from back then. It was just so long ago that I'm thankful how much technology's changed since then, because at first
mhm.
I remember I did a little trial of a CGM, and it was this huge box that I had to wear.
They were big. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I remember wearing that for 3 days, and I remember finger pricking and writing down all my blood sugars and little
Yeah, remember the little
chart.
log books?
Yeah, yeah. So that was it's come a long way, but yeah, so that's kind of my diagnosis story. I was eating a fruit roll up or something like that on the way to the hospital. My dad was like, I don't know if you should be eating that right now because we don't know what's going on. And sure enough, my blood sugar was really high.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, he had definitely tidbits of I can remember always having water by my bedside.
Hmm.
That's still a very vivid memory, is going to bed with water next to. And it is funny how you look back and your parents, they pick up on certain things, but then they can just kind of dismiss other behavior. And of course, I had two brothers at the time, so I wasn't the only kid in the house, so I guess they were paying attention to other things. Well,
Well, and also,
but
I mean, they might have just thought, like, I know my dad, he's a family medicine doctor, and I remember
okay.
he thought it was a UTI, and he was like,
Mm,
well, we'll take her in if it doesn't kind of go away on its own in a day or two.
okay.
And just because, yeah, like type 1 diabetes was so, I mean, it's still so rare, but even back then it was even
Mm-hmm.
more rare. And so
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't even on his radar.
Isn't that something? And you bring up something, UTIs, because I'm starting to see that pop up now within just conversations. Some people that I'm working with, that's a tied symptom,
Yeah.
which makes sense.
Yeah, and so
Just
whether or
about
not
the
it was, yeah, I think he just like the fact that I was just going to the restroom all the time, that's what maybe he was like, maybe she has a UTI, but um I don't think I had like other UTI symptoms. I think it was just
okay,
that, frequent going to the bathroom with diabetes,
yeah.
but I mean, it could have, there's so many things, that
Hmm.
are tied to having that glucose being elevated in the blood.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us about. We're going to talk about you as a woman living with type 1 right now. So how are you? What's your day to day look like? What's your insulin therapy, and what's your choices?
Yeah, so right now, and I would say with my diabetes management, it wasn't until probably like after college that I really started wanting to take care of it for me, not just because my doctor said I should or because I should
Mm-hmm.
have a certain A1C, but I really just wanted to understand it. I wanted to feel my best. I wanted my health to be the best that it could be. And so I have been on the insulin pump since I was about 10. And when I was a junior in college, I went on the first, it was like the G4 maybe of the Dexcom.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It was kind of looked like a
I
torture.
remember. Yes, that
Um,
was quite a thing to insert. What? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
not, but I
Mm-hmm.
remember it was such a hurdle to try to get insurance to cover it, and
Mm-hmm.
it finally got covered, and then I started wearing it. And I was like, oh, this is like not super comfortable, but it was helping. And then I went on the Medtronic pump with the CGM for several years, and then when I was maybe 26, I switched to the tandem with Control
Okay.
IQ. So I do the G6 or G7 in the tandem now.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, and I was going to ask you about MDI, multiple daily injections. And that's it. It doesn't sound like that's something you've done for many, many years. So yeah, you
Yeah,
got
I
on the
did it
pump
for a
pretty
little
quick.
bit. Yeah, I
Yeah.
did it for a couple years at the beginning, and every now and then I'll go to MDI if I want to take a little break
Little
from
pump
the
break. Yeah.
hmm
Yeah. Really nice. Really nice. Yeah. Because as you may or may not know, I've been injecting since day one and I continue to do it.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm coming up on 42 years and I continue to be on MDI.
You
And
were a
it,
CGM?
oh, yes. Yes. Yeah.
That's
Yeah. The
right, because I've seen
Dexcom
your videos.
G7.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And, it just goes to show you, and we'll talk more about, the people that you've helped within your practice, how different we all are.
Mm-hmm.
And, we can't be, I mean, the idea of obviously getting on a pump is always be an option. It's just not something I've decided to do quite yet. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just so nice. Like you said, the tools we have right now and the in pen that I use, it's a
Yeah.
smart insulin pen, amazing,
I
and it
love
gives me the freedom. So yeah, choices. Very thankful for the things that we can choose. So really good. So
her.
tell us about, you went the medical path,
Mm-hmm.
and so tell us your journey working with patients and where you are right now.
Yeah. So when I was in undergraduate at Virginia Tech, I majored in human nutrition, foods, and exercise.
Mm,
And that was kind of their pre-health sciences major. So we got all the prerequisites that we needed for graduate school, whether we wanted to do registered dietitian school or PA or MD or any sort of health PT, just all the
mm,
like sciences. And then I graduated and I went to PA school. And in PA school, I always really I knew that I wanted to do endocrinology. I really wanted to do pediatric endocrinology at the time.
mm,
And I always just kind of knew that. Like I had fun on my other rotations. I was like, oh, ortho is cool, oh, ENT is fun. I was doing all this
mm,
stuff, but I always knew I was like, I really want to go into endocrinology. And
mm,
so on my endocrinology rotation. I had an adult endocrinology rotation. It was one of my electives that I chose. And I just kind of, so if anyone's in PA school or grad school, definitely just don't be afraid to put yourself out there and ask for the job because that's what I did.
mm,
I was on my rotation. I was a student. I had been shadowing and helping see patients and come up with plans for about a month. And I was like, hey, I've really, really liked this specialty, especially, having type 1. And it was in my area that I lived. And so I was like, I don't know if you all are interested in a new PA after I graduate, but I would be honored if you considered me. And I ended up getting a job pretty much right after I graduated in endocrinology. So that was, I mean, I worked in urgent care for like 3 months just while they
mm,
were opening up a spot for me. But it was endo is it's very specialized, and
mm,
PAs are kind of trained as generalists. And so we are trained a lot of the PA profession initially started out in kind of family medicine,
mm,
that kind of thing. And there's a lot of PAs in the hospitals doing rounds and stuff like that. But for endocrinology, there's a lot of nurse practitioners, and then there are some PAs. But it was definitely it was new for me. Luckily, I had the knowledge of type 1 already, but there's still
mm.
so much. I only knew my pump and my diabetes at the time.
Right.
There was so much to learn with
Yeah.
all of and this was the time when the closed loop pumps were just starting to come out. And so we were learning about all of the science and the algorithms behind that.
Mm,
And then just the different type 2 diabetes medications too, because
mm,
there are so many. Sorry about that.
mm.
So
That's
there
okay.
are so many different medicines to just learn. And so it was a big learning curve. And the way that the medical system is, the appointments are very quick, and although like, and there's nothing wrong with this, but the fact of it is like they're run by business people a lot of times. And so from a business person perspective, if they don't work in healthcare, they are thinking about numbers and
Mm,
efficiency and profit. And so it it can be, depending on where you work, the visits can be pretty jammed together. And
mm.
having diabetes, if I had an 8 o'clock, 8:20, 8:49, 9:20, 9:40, 10, and
Wow.
then it was like I would be running to the bathroom or like,
Wow.
having a low blood sugar and like slurping
Yeah.
down juice really quick. And so I think that my own stress levels were definitely going up. Even my own A1C went up to like 7.6, which
Hmm.
is still, it definitely went up through me not changing anything necessarily with my diet or my strategies. It was just truly the stress of it, I think.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
understood. Yeah.
the thing I loved about it though was working with people with diabetes, because especially the type ones, I mean, as someone with type one, when you meet someone else with type one, there's just this instant like I know that you get it. Like even if
Yep.
there's a
It's an
day
instant
where,
connection. Hmm.
yeah, it's because
Instant. Hmm.
it's just there's something that other people do not understand,
Hmm.
and I wouldn't want them to understand.
Hmm.
It's the day to day, the constantly on, constantly
Yes.
being, we're kind of like a thermostat is the way I think about it, trying
Hmm.
to get our blood sugars just always in range. And so, that was, it was really, really cool to be able to bond with my patients over that. And they loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I think that was the first time it actually helped me a lot with my own diabetes, because I was always really shy growing up and I didn't talk about my diabetes. I didn't go to
Hmm.
support groups or camps or anything. Like I
Hmm.
kind of, my coping mechanism with it was to kind of sometimes pretend it wasn't there and just try to be as
Hmm.
quote unquote normal as possible. And while that was, I appreciate being able to not miss out on like normal kid things. I also think community is really beneficial. That's why I love the Honey Health app. That's why I love,
Hmm.
the Instagram community. And so that was something I was missing. And when I started working in endocrinology, even though the hecticness of the day to day was so stressful, the time that I had with my patients, that I loved it. I cherished it because it was that community, and it
Hmm.
was just having other people that understood it. And so, because I know some people who are like, how can you live with diabetes 24/7 and work in diabetes?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so
It can
I
seem
was a
overwhelming.
little, yeah, I was a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
worried. Like I was like,
Hmm.
I don't know, how's this going to be for my mental health? But
Yeah.
I really did enjoy it. And I think what ended up making me kind of burned out though wasn't necessarily, I loved the people and everything. It wasn't that. And I loved the people I worked with too. It was more so the kind of just the pace of everything, because
Yeah.
the stuff that we talk about on the Honey Health app and everything we don't get time to talk about that in the visits
Hmm.
as the
Hmm.
endo provider role,
Yeah.
because that role, what I learned is, if you're checking in every quarter at a minimum, there are some people who you only have to check in with every 6 months, but
Hmm.
for the most part, you're checking in every 3 months, and a lot can happen in 3 months. And all you can
Hmm.
do in 20 minutes is, we've already been almost talking for 20 minutes goes by fast,
Sure
like
does. It sure
actually, like
does.
the first 5 minutes, you're catching up with them on how has their life been. Oh, they started college, or oh, and so
Hmm.
then next thing you know, by the time they download their pump, now you only got 10 minutes to look at it. And then you want to do
Right.
the exam and make sure labs are ordered, insulin
Right.
filled.
Hmm.
And so by all that time, then it's like, okay, we have about 2 minutes to look at look at this past 90 days of blood sugar numbers and
Right.
any trends.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point because that is generally the medical model, especially with something like with and we'll talk type one. I know type two. Those with type two can be affected by this sort of this system, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's very practical. I mean, that visit it's just the levels and it's the practical end. But as you and I both know, there's reasons why we're at those levels. There's a
Mhm.
story behind what's really going on day to day. And that's why these communities that we're both attached to and the coaching that we're both doing is so important, because they
Mhm.
don't get to really talk about, or they'll come in and the doctor will be like, and you can probably agree with this, oh, you got a 6.0 A1C, great job, keep doing what
Yeah,
you're doing. And then
right.
you go home, and I've heard this so many times from some ladies I've coached. It's like they have no idea what this is taking.
Yeah.
It's a good number, it looks good on paper, but
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah.
Are you having lows? Is that is that an average that, are you having a lot of lows that's bringing that down? Or like, what's the mental toll that it's taking for
Mm-hmm.
you to get to that number? Because like
Mm-hmm.
my A1C is around a 6.4, maybe 6.3. Like, and for me, I know that some people post and theirs is like in the fives. And I know, I can get there, but at this particular time in my life with everything I've got going on, I know the mental toll it would take for me to have there is probably not worth the extra cortisol inflammation that's going to be happening.
Yeah.
So there's so many things that it's not just a number.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a shame that that can't be part of the conversation. And, you mentioned that, you studied nutrition, exercise, all the things that we know. Again, that's part of what's going on with that day-to-day care. I have a very similar lifestyle as you do. I've continued to rely on obviously what's on my plate and movement. We
Mhm.
both know how impactful movement is. It's a
Yes.
game changer
Oh my
to
gosh.
to
Yes.
increase sensitivity and not only feel it's physical and it's emotional and it's mental. It's that it's something we can control.
Yes,
You
it's
know.
crazy. And that was the crazy thing is when I thought, oh, my undergraduate of nutrition, exercise, medicine, it's going to be the perfect mix. And then
Mm-hmm.
when I got into the medical field, I didn't have time to address lifestyle at all because
Yeah.
you really only have time to address like their diabetes in that visit and the medical, all of the medical side of that. And you a little bit do have a little bit of time to address
Mm-hmm.
exercise, but it's typically like, oh, are you using exercise activity feature? Try putting it on 2 hours before your workout instead of one. Maybe you need more of a buffer.
Oh,
But
okay.
it's
That's part of
not
the conversation. Yeah.
it's more about like like the medical dosing side of it, not as much the, well, what are you eating before you work out? Because that's going to affect it.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing during your day leading up to that workout? Did you clean all morning or did you sit and
Yes.
do work all morning? Because
Mm-hmm.
that
All those
you're already more
questions.
sensitive. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's just
Yeah.
crazy how much. And I, now that I've been a PA for 5 years too, I was fresh out of school and I didn't want to miss anything. And I think that there are endos, especially who've been doing this for a long time. Those that are really, really skilled, like, and really good at what they do, they can make it succinct and still be thorough. And I've had an endo before where like you still leave there feeling like that was really thorough. Like we got through
Okay.
everything I wanted to talk about. And I think that now I would be able to do that a little better than I did when I first was 24 years old out of school and I just wanted to talk about everything, and
Interesting. Yeah.
that's also why I left too, because I was like, you know what? Like, I don't think I'm able to address everything in this setting that I want to address as far as lifestyle goes. And that's why I started doing the fitness coaching, because I was also going on my own journey with fitness and I worked with a coach and how much that
Okay.
coach helped me. I was like, you know what? She doesn't even work with diabetics, but like, how much would this kind of thing help in the setting of people who have type 1 diabetes and are trying to
Right.
improve their
Absolutely.
fitness? Um,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you see, and this is something that if we had a crystal ball, we could foresee of whether or not, and I think I'm starting to notice it a little bit about the roles that you and I play within. Again, I'm not in the medical community as a health coach and certified trainer as well. It's part of
Mhm.
how I coach and support women, and they're starting, the functional medicine side is starting to incorporate because they know that's really the full patient care
Mhm.
model. And I hope and pray one day that that is part of it.
So too.
Yeah. And we've had doctors here on here that completely agree with what we're sharing as well. And they said, it begins in school. It's just not part of the curriculum in medical
Mhm.
school.
Not.
And it
I
needs
got
to
like
start there. Mm-hmm.
yeah, in PA school, there was truly like maybe a week, maybe it was even a day. I don't even remember because it was so little the amount of
Wow.
nutrition we got.
Isn't
And
that
I
incredible?
I got it through undergraduate 4 years, but like I was very surprised at if I had not had the background I had, I would have been like, I don't know, we don't know anything about nutrition. Like I don't even know how
Mm-hmm.
many calories someone needs. Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
I watched when I was in PA school, every time I'd go to the gym, I was listening to a podcast and I educated myself on a lot of stuff about nutrition um and fitness, and then just that with the undergrad stuff. But the functional medicine stuff is really interesting too. I worked with a functional medicine doctor for a while just for my
Mm.
own personal things, and
Okay.
that helped expand just that whole world of functional medicine was kind of then opened up to me. And I was like, wow, this is amazing because there are so many pieces of the puzzle that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I feel like the regular medicine world is only addressing this body system, but
Mm-hmm.
functional
Mm-hmm.
is like
Mm-hmm.
all of them.
And that's the point, right? Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Because so many things, because, we're really managing symptoms, or I should say, doctors are really managing
Mhm.
symptoms and not realizing how symptoms are pointing to different things. And again, lifestyle, diet, sleep,
Mhm. Yes, sleep. Oh my
stress.
gosh, yeah,
I
all
know
of
we
those.
could do a
They
whole
affect it
podcast on sleep.
so much. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
crazy. And I don't think
Yeah.
that I even used to understand how much, because I think I used to think, oh, like sleep is for the weak. And I would just like, it's like
Mm.
I thought I didn't need it and I could just chop an hour, add an hour onto my day by skipping out on an hour of sleep. And it was not helping my blood sugars.
Right. Long term, you can't sustain that for sure. So,
Mhm.
if you were to give advice to somebody, some of our listeners, for them, for their next visit,
Mhm.
what are good things to prepare? I always think of writing down those questions, but is there anything, and you might know more, because you worked in that space, what
Mhm.
specifically would really make that 20 minutes valuable?
Right. Like getting the most out of that 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I think something to reflect on would be if you, I also think that looking at your clarity reports, if you're, or your Libre
Mm-hmm.
reports or whatever that is, now they have the apps making that so much easier. Looking at them, if you don't have time to look at them once a week, maybe at least once every few weeks or once a month, just to kind of get an idea. Because the doctors are like my doctor, I can message her on a portal if I'm having something going on in between visits that I don't feel comfortable adjusting on my own. And
Mm.
so first of all, utilizing that, because then it's almost like, you know how some people on Instagram do a photo dump after like not
Right.
posting any photos, and then they'll be
Mm-hmm.
like, here's photos from the past 3 months. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you do that, if you do like a photo dump, but at your endocrinology visit, it's like a health dump. It's like,
Yeah, that's a
okay,
good
like
point.
that's a lot, and so one, just utilizing your team in between visits if you need to.
Mm.
That's a really, really big one. I appreciated when my patients would message me between, because then at the appointment we could address the other things. But
Mm.
if if you don't have that kind of access, to the portals and all of that, then I mean you can always call them too. But I would say utilizing them in between, and then to prepare for the visit itself, kind of asking yourself, am I noticing any trends? Because it's almost like there's one thing if you just go in there kind of like, your lips are zipped and you don't really, and then they're just looking at your logs are only painting a very small picture of what's going
Mm-hmm.
on. And
Mm-hmm.
your logs, like you said, could look perfect. They could look great,
Mm-hmm.
but you're chugging juice all day long and drinking all that
Right.
processed sugar just to keep
Right.
yourself afloat. That's not
That's
healthy
true.
either.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and so, there's um and so asking yourself, am I running through my juice boxes more often than normal, or do I have a bunch of juice boxes sitting on my nightstand, or do I am I has anything changed within my routine? I think that's a good thing to kind of self-reflect. How do kind of a quarterly check-in with yourself on your drive to the
Yeah.
endo visit. How have I been doing the past 3 months? What's been new in my life? Oh, I picked
Mm-hmm.
up this side job, or
Mm-hmm.
oh, I my child is now in sports and that threw
Mm-hmm.
off my whole schedule. And
Sure. Sure.
now I don't
Yeah.
have time to work out in the afternoon. So now my blood
Mm-hmm.
sugars are high in the afternoon because my pump settings aren't adjusted accordingly. Those kind of things, the endos can't necessarily be like, has anything changed with your children's sport? Like they're not thinking of that
Right.
because
Right.
they're
They can't
just,
read our mind. Yeah.
yeah. And so that's where that kind of communication is really important. So I think that's really important. Just reflecting on overall as a whole, what is different. And it might just be your diet. I mean, it might be the simplest thing about your diet. It might just be you know what? I drink a protein shake extra every day now after I work out. I read somewhere online that you're supposed to drink a protein shake after you exercise, and now I do that. And oh, now I'm having these spikes after I drink that protein shake. So just like the
Hmm.
littlest things, like
Hmm.
what's different in my routine. And when you think about what's different, you could think about in the categories of like, okay, my social life, social meaning your family, your friends, traveling, work, what's different in
Hmm.
my nutritional life, what's different in my activity,
Hmm.
and your stress levels. Just,
Hmm.
how are you? There's a difference, even if nothing has changed from your routine, maybe something has changed internally to where at one point you were um responding, you felt like you were managing everything that was on your plate. Maybe now it's different. Now maybe you feel like you're drowning in it because it's just too much. So that's
Hmm.
also like, it's like there's one thing that's like our perceived stress, and then there's also the actual stressors on our plate.
That's some really good points. That's some really good points. Yeah. And another thing is we don't lack I guess say I'll call it education at this point, but I don't. Sometimes it's more sound education and advice online.
Hmm.
It might be too much stuff out there, right?
I know.
I think that's one of the number one things I get is people, my clients or even friends will come to me and they'll say, I heard about XYZ. What do you think about this? And it's such a broad question because we're all so different as to
Yeah.
whether or not, whether it's a supplement or a type of exercise
Hmm.
or maybe a new pump, whatever it is. It might be diabetes related, but it's definitely going to be something that could impact their blood sugar management. And it can be overwhelming, and they're jumping around to the next best thing to help solve that problem.
Yeah.
But like we were talking about, you and I are both contributors on the Honey Health Diabetes app. So let's talk a little bit about that and how you it's I love the idea because it's short bites. It comes from experts, doctors, nutritionists,
Hmm.
and many of us living with diabetes. And I think it's a good tool as well when, let's say, they're in because your page is called the T1D page, so your group, to come in and let's say you're talking about I don't know. There's so many things that you talk about. I'm trying to think of
I
an
know.
item.
I talk about just day to day. That's that my
Yeah.
I think the when I made that page, I was thinking I just want to address everything that I couldn't address in the endocrinology office.
Mm,
And I kind of just want it to be a page where all of those day to day, the way I saw the endo visit was a as a whole, how are you doing? And then what I'm trying to do with my group in the Honey Health app is day to day, how are we doing?
yeah. Yeah.
So whether that's sometimes I just share snippets of my own blood sugars and what I may have done incorrectly and how I'm going to fix it next
Mm-hmm.
time, or
Mm-hmm.
I just think little educational moments like that. Sometimes I'll talk about fitness, sometimes nutrition,
Mm-hmm.
just kind
Yeah.
of lots of different things. But
Yeah.
that's kind of what I like to talk about on there.
Yeah. And what I like is how relatable it is. Obviously, it's coming from, from people like us that are living with, and again, the app has all types of diabetes. So it's not specifically focusing on just type 1. There's type 2, prediabetes, gestational diabetes, and all of that. But I think it brings up things that you and I are talking about that are real, relatable,
Hmm.
and things that they can consider for themselves with a grain of salt, because it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to, this idea or this, these tips that we're sharing. But I think it can help equip them with doctor visits. Most
Absolutely.
definitely, you
Yes,
know?
definitely. I think that's what helped me improve my diabetes management before we had all these groups and apps online was just um the only thing there was Facebook groups at the time when I like started really like diving into some stuff. And even just that, hearing other people's experiences, it almost makes you feel validated in a way that's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh,
Absolutely.
I
Mm-hmm.
always I was always taught exercise drops your blood sugar. Like now there's other people saying that certain types of exercises raise their blood sugar. well, that makes sense. Now I feel a little more comfortable doing a raised
Yeah.
temp basal because I used to always be
Hmm.
scared to do that because
Hmm.
I thought it was going to drop my blood
Hmm.
sugar.
Yeah.
So there's just little things like that that it almost gives you a little bit of confidence to try different things too.
Totally
And
agree. Hmm.
yeah, and then that's how
Yeah.
the endo visits can be so productive because it's like, hey, I tried this and it worked a little better for me. And then your
Hmm.
endo can be like, oh yeah, keep doing that. You could even do a little bit more by adjusting it like this. And then that's how you're kind of working together to optimize it for you.
Yeah, perfect. So share what you are doing right now. So you stepped away from your role as a PA, and yeah, tell us about who you're working with right now.
Yeah, so I am working with I started out working full time. I dove into the coaching business, working with type 1 diabetics who wanted to improve their fitness in whatever way that meant for them, whether that was achieving a certain physique related goal or just improving their blood sugars or just learning about how exercise affects their blood sugars, because that's what I noticed was the biggest hurdle with a lot of the people I worked with was they were like, I want to just work out so I can feel good, so I can go up the stairs at the water park without being out of
Mhm.
breath. But every time I try to get into a workout routine, 15 minutes in, I drop. And and that it was just so frustrating for them, and they're like it's not even worth the mental frustrating toll that it's taking on me, so I just don't even exercise. And then for
Yeah.
someone to hear that someone's missing out on all these amazing endorphins and benefits of exercise, I'm like,
Hmm.
no, we got to change something. And so
Oh,
that's why
good.
I do health and fitness coaching for people who have type 1.
Nice, nice. Yeah, yeah. You're bringing some really good points into it. Yeah, I hear that a lot too. Yeah, there's that. They avoid out of fear or just not understanding what the first step should be. So, what do you think the first step should be? Just starting?
For exercising, like
Yeah.
well, I
Start and
think
trust.
joining, I really think joining things like the Honey Health groups and um, just following accounts of other people who have diabetes sharing
Mhm.
their own experiences. Because, like you said, just because it works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you. But by seeing other people doing it, it almost helps build that self-efficacy of like, if they're
Mhm.
doing it and they have type 1, who's to say I can't
Mhm.
figure it out? And then it
Right.
almost just gives you that confidence to just start.
Absolutely.
But yeah, just starting because it's definitely not going to be perfect. Even maybe for a couple months it won't be, it takes a
Hmm.
while to get it kind of figured out. And there are still days that I'm like, well, I messed that one up and my blood sugar, is not what I thought it would be with that
Right.
workout. But
Right. It's a good tool. Yeah. Yeah.
and
To
if you
learn and to,
yeah,
yeah, because we're constantly guessing. I'll call it a guess because, dosing and what we're doing with our insulin therapy. I mean, it's an educated guess. We're about 90% sure we're going to get it right.
mhm,
The rest is adjustment. And I
yep,
think I think that's one of the first steps that I've learned myself and coaching is just to have a lot more grace with yourself and realize it's not going to be perfect the first time out, and to be equipped. Obviously, we need to have our low sugar snacks with us. We need to have our insulin available, and all the making sure everything is attainable, in order
right,
to fix a high or low or what that is. But I think mentally, just to prepare ourselves mentally, that it's going to be worth this effort to get over this
absolutely.
hurdle,
And
most
I always like
definitely.
to remind people that there's that phrase that they say experience is the best teacher, but in my
Mm.
opinion, reflection is the best
Mm,
reflecting on that
good
experience.
point.
Because if you have
Yeah.
just an experience of a low blood sugar when you work out, but then you just
Mm.
move on with your life and you don't reflect on, well, why did it go low? How can I prevent it
Mhm.
from doing that next
Yeah.
time? So that's why that's the way that I learned was just by writing everything down. I would just write down my blood sugar before the workout and then I would write what I did. So maybe I would write, 150 and then 150 before workout, 3 p.m. I would write what time the workout was.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then I would write, I I did a temp basal 2 hours before the workout, minus 20%. And then I would write what happened, what was my blood sugar after the workout. And then if something happened, like when I first started doing this, when I was in college, I think my pediatric endo said, just bolus for half of whatever you eat. And I tried that and it didn't quite work because in college is when I was starting to do strength training. And so I was
Mm-hmm.
spiking.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay. Like so then I wrote it down. I was like, meal 30 carbs, bolus 15 carbs, blood sugar after workout 230. And then I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay. Next time maybe the meal was 30 carbs. I'm only gonna bolus 25 carbs. And okay, maybe I don't need to subtract any. Next time,
Yeah.
let me just try entering the real number. And so
Mm-hmm.
and then I did elliptical and then I dropped. And I was like, oh, okay. So the elliptical, I need to do something different than when
Right.
I'm lifting weight. And so that's really how
Mm-hmm.
I started because you can hear all the time people, content creators saying this is going to do this for the blood sugar, this is going to do this, but sometimes it doesn't click until you actually see it for yourself and your own
Yeah.
blood sugars too.
Yeah.
So then I think reflecting and writing it down is important.
Oh, really good point. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. We got to learn from our experiences. Yeah.
Hmm.
So what helps you emotionally
We're just with diabetes.
diabetes? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your
Oh gosh. I think there are there are days I actually did therapy for a while and that really, really helped me kind of untangle some of the roots that were I didn't realize were stressing me out. And I think but also kind of that in combination with community and support system
mhm,
is really
mhm,
important.
mhm,
I think that having a community, because if you are, even if it's an online community, because I don't in person, I actually don't in my area have any type 1 friends like in real life, but
mm,
online, so I feel very supported though because of these communities and
yeah.
spaces online. And
Mhm.
so I think that, I mean, I've met some of my online friends in real life, but like locally, I don't go to like
Understood.
diabetes meetups or
Hmm.
anything,
Hmm.
but that would be fun though. I would be open to that.
You bring up a good point because, and I don't know if you realize this, but my husband also lives with type 1 diabetes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, a funny little story. But it's definitely something that's coming across our radar right now is that in our town, and I've led some diabetes sisters local meetups here. I'm part of that organization, but that has gone virtually right now. So, and I've missed getting together with some of these ladies, but we also know men, we know both men and women living with type 1. So we're getting together, we're planning on scheduling one right here, just getting a real informal get together type
Hmm.
ones that live in our city.
I love that.
And to have their spouses come as well, or their significant others, or whoever is
Mhm.
within their home that it
They're a
impacts,
part of
because
it too.
they
Yeah.
sure are. There's a lot of missing pieces there that needs to be supported. So yeah, more to come on that. So yeah, we're in the process of
Yeah. That's exciting.
finding a location, and it's one of those things you just got to put the date on the calendar,
Absolutely.
and
Just yeah. But
can't please
that's the
everybody.
thing, the community, because like I was saying before, is like it can feel very isolating if you're not in any
Mm-hmm.
sort of community and it can actually it's I think that stress and anxiety, it has to manifest itself in some way, whether it is externally and you're like, ah, I'm so stressed, but if you bottle it in, it's only gonna manifest itself internally, whether that's in the form of chest tightness or stomach aches or headaches.
Yeah,
And so you gotta at some point be able to say, oh, I had the most frustrating high blood sugar day. I had a donut and it just threw off my whole day and I bolused
right.
the right way and I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why this happened.
Mm-hmm.
And just to be able to talk to somebody about that, you have to have that outlet.
You sure do. You sure do. Yes, yes. We need people. We definitely need each other.
Hmm.
So what about your day to day? You've shared a lot already about really how you do it. So you're active, obviously. So how much exercise do you get? Is it a daily thing for you as well?
It
Sounds like it
is
might
pretty much,
be.
yeah. I love walking. I try
Mm-hmm.
to walk every single day. I just love it, especially if I can get outside and walk,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's cold, I'll bundle up, but
Bundle up.
out the
Mm-hmm.
sunshine, I just
Mm-hmm.
love
Mm-hmm.
walking is probably my very favorite. I've always walked with my mom growing up, and
Mm-hmm.
I like to listen to a podcast when I walk or call
Mm-hmm.
somebody, and
Mm-hmm.
so I try to do that every single day. And then about 3 or 4 days a week, I like to lift weights for exercise.
Okay.
And one day a week, I have started doing Pilates, which has been really fun.
Oh, That's getting really popular. Really good. Yeah. I think, we talked about how fitness needs to be part of the schedule. But variety is really good too. But like you were saying too, if somebody is new to getting fitness into their routine to manage their diabetes, to start off slow with and walking really is the best. I mean,
you can't beat
that
it. I
steady
mean, you don't need
state.
anything. You
No,
just put on your shoes and go.
yeah. Get
Yeah.
confident with how much time you're spending, whether it's outside on a treadmill or whatever, and just kind of build up from there. Really good. Now, can you give any final tips to our listeners? You've given us some really good nuggets
Oh,
today. It's been
thank
a lot
you.
of fun talking to you and
Of
having
course.
you on here.
Yeah, I guess the final tips, I would say I think checking in with yourself regularly is really important. Like if you do a little quarterly check-in with yourself, like you would do with your endo, and ask yourself, what am I needing right now? Because maybe it is community. Maybe in that season, it's not as much community, but maybe you need to kind of just sit down for a few minutes and write down what's been happening with your blood sugars and
Mhm.
just stop and just all this go go go, just stop for a minute and reflect. Or maybe what you need is to just, I don't know, like go and treat yourself to some self-care and get a massage or
There
maybe
you go.
but I think that stopping and reflecting is really beneficial for our health, not only in our diabetes, but just for so many things
It sure
holistically.
is. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We appreciate that. Really good. So, how can our listeners get in touch with you or find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. My Instagram name is Paige underscore T1D underscore fitness. And then on the Honey Health app, my group is called the T1D Page, and Page
Mhm.
is spelled like PAIGE.
Yes. And we'll definitely link all that, make it easy for everybody right here in the show notes. So awesome. Well, thanks so much.
Thank
And
you, Melissa.
yes, and we'd like to invite you back another time, just see how things are rolling with your career and all your, because we just love to be able to share what's happening and to tell stories about success, because that's really, that's why we're here to help each other. So
Yeah,
thanks
I love
again. We
it. Thank
appreciate you.
you. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
thank you so much for having me. I love
Mm-hmm.
this. And
Yeah.
I love listening to your podcast and seeing your videos on honey and
Oh,
insulin.
thank you. Yes. Yes. When that whole opportunity came up, it's just amazing. I love the fact that it's so authentic and it's such a giving community
Mm-hmm.
space. So yeah, we definitely encourage everybody to check it out. And I will link that here, as it always is here, to check out again the Honey Health Diabetes app, and come join us. It's a free download and lots of different groups, lots of different information. You can pick and choose who you want to get some information from. And the data insights is pretty cool too, that, where you can upload, I think we can upload our glucometers now on there as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not just CGM. So again, more information to reflect on,
Mm-hmm. Yep,
like you said.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Always be
It's
learning.
always be learning. Yeah. Well, thanks again, Paige. And thanks for listening. Let us know what you think about the show today, and be sure to rate and review the show. We appreciate your feedback. And until next week, bye for now. Thanks for tuning in to the Type 1 and Midlife podcast. And be sure to subscribe, rate, and review right here on iTunes. And you're invited to connect with our Type 1 and Midlife community on the free Honey Health app. Here we discuss the podcast topics in a group chat, a chance for you to ask questions and take action on what we share here on the show. You can find the app link to download for free right here in the show notes. And for free resources, you can visit me at abundanthealthwithmelissa.com. And your support means so much. Thank you.